Welcome back to Tell Your Story Alaska. Today we will be taking on the next two villages in our list. We are still in the A's, villages that begin with the letter A. However, we are on the last two A villages. Today we will be talking about Atmautluak and, make sure I pronounce it right, Atqasuk. And these two villages are not near each other, but they are next on our list. So we'll start with Atmautluak. Atmautluak lies on the west bank of the Meade River in the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta area. It's just 20 miles northwest of the hub village of Bethel. It lays in a very low-lying, wet, open tundra land. In fact, it's so low-lying and wet that they need wooden walkways for the inhabitants to move around the community. So if you've ever been on those, I don't know, I just remember going on vacation to some places long ago, and they have like these marketplace wooden walkways along the beach or something. But they have those all around the communities from house to house, so you can walk around because the tundra is so sloppy wet, specifically in the summertime. Obviously, in the wintertime, it's all frozen. But anyway, there's a lot of walkways to get around. There, as far as I can tell, there is no sewer or water system in Atmautluak. Now, I have not been to Atmautluak, but I have been to the nearby village of Atqasuk. Now, the first thing I noticed when I flew into Atqasuk was incredible water everywhere. It's like lake with these thin strips of land in between. So there seems to be more lake than there is land. And yet these communities have built their homes on these little slivers of land in a sea of lakes. It's really incredible. I've never been to a place like it before, and I was there for the first time just last summer. I landed in Atqasuk, the Atmautluak's neighbor. And so the two villages sit in similar places, surrounded by water and these little slivers of land where they build their homes. It's really fascinating. I even rewatched my video of being there because I got there and I was so fascinated by all the water. I opened up my camera and took a video of me taking off and kind of flying over the community. Now I'm talking about Atqasuk, but Atmautluak is similar with the topography around. And I was just commenting on the water and the speculating that the fishing must be really good because with all of this water, there's lots of places for fish to grow and grow in population and everything. So I thought, man, there must be really good fishing here. And I even commented in the video, I need to bring my fishing pole next time I come. Now, I do remember landing there, and the winds were like 30 to 35 knots. And so, fortunately, they were straight down the runway, making the landing. It felt like I was even though I fly a Cherokee 6, it felt like I was a helicopter coming in. So those are always nice landings. And taking off, the wind really helps taking off into the wind. Don't want to land with a crosswind there, though, but it looks like they got the runway aligned really well. But yeah, next time I go, I need to bring a fishing pole and make sure I'm licensed up. That would be really neat. All right, enough on that. The population of Atmautluak is 386 people as of the 2020 census. Now, this is up nearly 40% since 2010, so it's obviously a growing community. The vast majority of the residents are Yupik Native Americans. Atmautluak is a relatively young community. It was just settled in the 1960s. People moved to this site to higher ground. I'm not sure where they were before. That was lower than Atmautluak, but that's what the history says. They moved to higher ground to avoid flooding and for the rich resources in the area. And yes, it certainly seems like those rich resources may be fish. Atmautluak has been a place for prototype homes for new home designs, utilizing new technologies, emphasizing efficiencies. This was just what came up in some of my searches. I usually type in the village name on YouTube and see what comes up. And this was just kind of a neat effort that comes up that I wanted to share. It's called a nonprofit called Cold Climate Housing Research Center. Now, this organization's mission is focused on the people who want to build better homes and thoughtful communities that use energy efficient systems reflecting the culture and community. So they're using modern technologies to make homes more efficient in these remote places. So I thought that was pretty cool. The organization says that 20% of structures in Alaska use their research, and they've served 55 communities and built 36 homes. So obviously, some of these homes were built in Atmautluak, and you can watch a video about that. They use these efforts to also train local workers to do the trade skill of building homes. And so they're providing local jobs and trade skills, which is just great. So not only are they building homes in these local communities, but they're also empowering the people to build the homes for themselves. They say their homes are 75% more efficient than the homes previously built in the community. These are high quality foam insulation. They build the homes on stilts to keep them off the permafrost, and they build them simply so they can be built very quickly. Atmautluak has no sewer or water system, so the plumbing in these new homes had to be very creative. And they're in the videos they're talking about trying to avoid using honey buckets, which is a kind of a funny term. I know I've talked about them before, but a honey bucket is, just a bucket you can, go to the bathroom in and dump outside. And obviously that's pretty unpleasant. So they get creative in these villages with unique designs, so which is pretty cool. All right, the local school in Atmautluak is called the Joan A. Alexei Memorial School. It is a K through 12 school. And as of 2018, there were 118 students. And that's actually quite a lot for a small community. And that's of 2018 when the population was lower. So it's probably more now. I went to a school in a small town in Illinois, and our high school had over 1,000. And that's just high school. And this is K through 12 with 118. So it's interesting. This is a bigger village school, but it would be teeny tiny where I'm from. So it's just kind of interesting how size is relative in Alaska. All right. Wow. So one other community element that stands out is the Atmautluak dancers. They do native traditional dance performances. You can watch some of these on YouTube. They wear traditional formal dress with mukluks, which, by the way, I just bought my first pair of mukluks, and they are awesome. If they weren't so warm, I would just wear them around the house because they're so comfortable. It's like wearing slippers, but for the rugged outdoors. They are just amazing. And I actually bought Stager mukluks. I bought 2 sizes too big, and then you buy, and it comes with the sleeve, which is like the insulation that goes inside. And then, so if you buy 2 sizes too big, and then you order an extra insulation sleeve, your shoe size, it fits inside, and you get double layer, and it's super warm and very, very comfortable. But I digress. Mukluks are awesome. So they wear the dancers wear the mukluks on their feet, and they hold feathers in their hands, and drummers do a steady rhythmic beating of their drums, and there is singing. And this is usually performed by the youth in the community. So a great cultural preservative there, and a celebration of the local culture. It's pretty neat. Now, as far as I can tell, the Atmautluak has 2 churches. One is a Moravian church, and the other is called the Saint Herman Parish of Alaska. And that sparked my curiosity. Who is Saint Herman? And so I looked him up, and he is a fascinating guy. Saint Herman was a Russian Orthodox monk and missionary to Alaska. In 1811, Herman moved to Spruce Island, which is near Kodiak Island. Now, this is pretty far from our village at Atmautluak, but it is the guy whose name bears the church there in Atmautluak, so it's worth talking about him for a little bit. Now, Saint Herman was said to wear very simple clothes, and he slept on a bench covered with deerskin, so he lived extremely simply. When asked how he could bear to be alone in the forest, because apparently he lived an extremely solitary life, When people asked him about this, he said, "I am not alone. God is here, as God is everywhere." Now, it's said that despite living a very solitary life, people were drawn to him, and before long, a chapel and a school for orphans were built there on Spruce Island. He was known for his deep love for the Aleut people, and he stood up for them against the excesses of the Russian American company, and was known to be the only Russian to visit the sick during an epidemic as he tirelessly worked to care for the sick and dying. Herman spent the rest of his life on Spruce Island and died on November 15th, 1837 at 81 years old. A really neat testimony of a Russian Orthodox missionary in Alaska. The Russian Orthodox Church officially declared Herman a saint in 1970. And so now the Orthodox Church of Atmautluak bears his name. So I thought that was pretty cool. And the more I look into these biographies of individual missionaries from the past, there's some amazing stories. And so this is sparking interest in me to find more of these. I think that can be a lot of really neat episodes. All right, so that's all I have for Atmautluak, Alaska. Fascinating place. I wouldn't mind visiting and bringing my fishing pole. All right, the next village, we're going to move way, way up north to Atqasuk. Atqasuk, Alaska, is also a relatively young village. Atqasuk is located on the Meade River, just 60 miles south of Barrow, Alaska. Now, Barrow is way, way up there, the most northerly village in the state, and it's just 60 miles south of that, so it's way up there. The name Atqasuk is the native word, which means the place to dig the rock that burns. And this rock that burns is a bituminous, can't pronounce this word, bituminous coal. It comes from bitumen, bituminous. It's a coal that was mined here during World War II, which became the reason for the community's settlement. Now, this coal is the most commonly used coal used in the power sector because of its high heating value. For you nerds out there, the heating value of this coal is 11,500 BTUs per pound, which is really, really good. It's also used for steel production. You need that heat to produce the steel and mold it, and this stuff will do it. So when this coal was found in a place, they called it the Meade River. So the Meade River is there, but they called the name of the town Meade River. And so started a mining operation in World War II for the coal. The coal was freighted to Barrow for use by the government during the war. Now, in 1951, a post office was founded under the name Meade River, but that post office shut down in 1957. And it says that by 1970, the community was basically abandoned, 0 residents. Some others says not completely abandoned, but basically it wasn't a community anymore. Then in 1977, it was reestablished, mostly by residents from Barrow, and they changed the name from Meade River to Atqasuk, the more native name. And they used the native name for the coal that was found there. And that's the name it bears today. So today, the community does have a few stores, a police department, and a school library for the 276 residents. That's of 2020 census. The vast majority of the residents are Inupiat Native Alaskans. Most of the residents work for the public sector, but the community also relies on subsistence, caribou hunting, and fishing. Other local game include bears, ptarmigan, ducks, geese, and muskox. Muskox, I think that's a rare one. You're not allowed to hunt that one very much, I think. I'm not sure. I'm actually not a hunter, but I'd like to be. I'm a wannabe hunter. I have been able to get moose meat, but I didn't shoot it. But muskox, what if, it'd be interesting to hunt that. There's also some arts and crafts sales, including masks, mittens, dolls, yo-yos, ulus, and parkas. The airport at Atqasuk is called the Atqasuk Edward Burnell Senior Memorial Airport. Now, I tried to find out who on earth is Edward Brunel Sr. because the airport's named after him. I Googled his name and all I got was information about the airport. I don't know who that was. So if anyone knows, put it in the comments. I don't know. I found 2 churches in Atqasuk. The Atqasuk Presbyterian Church, which began in 1981, which was birthed out of Barrow. So some of the church, the Presbyterian Church in Barrow, had set its eyes on Atqasuk and founded a church there. I also found the Latter-day Saints say that, the Mormons say that they offer services in Atqasuk, but I only saw mention of it. I'm not really sure if that's actually happening. But really, as far as churches go in Atqasuk, the data is very, very scant, and I've never been there, so that's all that I know. And that is all I know about Atqasuk, Alaska. I did find an interesting YouTube video about research teams going out there to do research about the tundra, how the depth of the permafrost, the types of plants growing there. So there's some interesting stuff being utilized for that. But that's all I know about Atqasuk, this relatively young community. All right, well, that's it for our 2 villages, and thus completes our all the villages in Alaska that begin with the letter A. We've done them all, so that's pretty exciting. Next week, unless it's going to be so close to Christmas, I might take the day off not record. But if I do get to it, we will begin with the B villages. Villages start with B, and we will be starting with Atqasuk's neighbor, Barrow, the most northerly village in the entire country, which is pretty amazing. It is a relatively famous place over there in Barrow. Barrow is officially not called Barrow anymore, although locally people still call it Barrow, at least in my circles. But the native name and the native you will see on the map is Utqiagvik, which means a place for gathering wild roots. So we'll be doing that one next time. And also Beaver, Alaska. And Beaver is a pretty small community on the Yukon River in central Alaska. And I also happen to really like beavers. I think they're awesome. So we'll get to Beaver, Alaska next time. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time. And we will begin all the villages that begin with the letter B. So we will see you then.